Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast. Coming at you live once again on the Fantasyholics Podcast Network, on the YouTube channel live. Brant, happy as heck to be here with you again. I feel like you and I kind of dropped the ball a little bit on last week's show. We had one of our own, one of the podcast group members of the Fantasyholics step down last week because he's moving on to bigger and better things with his career. We are losing a detrimental piece of the Fantasyholics podcast team in Seth Berger. Who was the resident IDP expert and put out many, many good things in his time with the Fantasyholics brand. So he definitely we missed. I dropped the ball last week, not throwing out a little shout out to Seth. So better late than never, Seth. We wish you luck in your future endeavors, and we will definitely miss you on the Fantasyholics.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to miss you. IDP, we got into one this year, and we were still trying to figure it out. And we definitely both were listening in and getting some advice on the side for it.
Absolutely. All right, Brent. So last week we played a little bit of ADP game because it's draft season. And when it comes to drafts, Brent, there's always a few guys that you look at and you're like, I am not leaving the draft without player X, player Y, player Z. And there's several of those guys for a lot of us. And sometimes they're higher priced players, sometimes they're lower priced. But today, Brant, we're going to go over our My Guys episode, talk about the players that we can't wait to own and that we're going to make sure we draft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of these guys are just now sneaking up my board. So I did miss out on a couple drafts with them, but I'm already out trying to make trades to get these guys. I don't want to start week one without some of these guys on my roster. I had to pivot a little bit on my QB, but he's still a guy that I definitely believe in. And if I wait on a quarterback, I am going with this guy.
Also, Brant, it is worth noting that the Colts today granted Jonathan Taylor's request to seek a trade. Vegas immediately put the odds, and supposedly there's something in the works with Taylor to the Miami Dolphins. So keep your eye out there. That would be huge for Miami. It would upset a lot of folks in a lot of different ways that have had their rookie drafting Devin Achane or players like yourself holding on to Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. So,
and I just got a little break with Achane getting hurt.
pay attention to that. We'll see how that shakes out. He may end up in a Colts uniform all season. We'll see. All right, Brant, you ready to get the bibs on?
Absolutely. Let's see. Kung Fu fat guy.
I'm pretty sure Kung Fu Panda was a fat guy too, so it's fine. He liked spirit animal. I've always claimed him. So Brant, when it comes to My Guys, I think it's important that we preface it a little bit before we just jump right into it. So sometimes My Guys aren't always players that are going to jump out and have an immediate impact week one, right? Sometimes they're guys that we're drafting early because we think by the end of the season they could be a league winner at their position. Now, again, on the flip side of that, maybe Derrick Henry's your My Guy, Brant, and it wouldn't be shocking if he was because he's a stud, right? But typically for you and I, when we have our My Guys, they're typically guys that, you know, we've been either on for a little while or something's changed in that player's forecast that we've been high on them, and it's a hill that you and I are willing to plant our flag, and we will go to battle with anyone on said players. So we will see if there's any disagreements between the two of us, or if we are yinging and yanging this week, Brant.
Okay, absolutely.
So why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your first My Guy here?
All right, I'm going to kick it off with the quarterback position. And this is a My Guy. You may call me a little homer for this one, a guy that wants to bring him back, and that's Russell Wilson. He's a guy that that has done it so many times in his career. 8 out of 11 years in the NFL, he's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Well, he's going outside the top 12 this year. And, excuse me, he's got a revamped offensive line. Javonte Williams is looking very good in the preseason and in camp. He's got Samaje Perine. He's got a great wide receiver core. He's got a new head coach. I expect that offense to be an extreme upgrade from what we saw last year. Last year, he struggled a little bit. He had he was quarterback 12 from weeks 14 through 18, but he finished last year with 3,524 yards and 16 touchdowns. Not a whole lot of rushes. He had 55 total rushes. I think it was like 300 yards, maybe. Let me scroll down. 277. He didn't even make it to 300. I expect him to take off a little bit more. I expect his rushing to go up a little bit, and I expect him to go right back to where he was when he left in Seattle and be a top 10 quarterback. And this is a guy that's going so late in drafts. If you decide to sit and wait on a quarterback, this is a guy that I'd be very comfortable grabbing and holding on to and playing week in and week out.
Okay, so now that you guys no longer own their first round pick in the trade, it's okay for him to come out and play well. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. He turned into JSN. It's okay.
I thought
nope. I'm sorry. He turned into Witherspoon. Yes.
Would you send Witherspoon back to get Russell back at this point?
No.
Okay.
No,
so you don't want him back.
If Seattle has a down year this year, I expect us to draft our franchise quarterback.
It's Geno Smith. All right, Brant. So speaking of franchise quarterback, this player seems to be that for his respective team. Now, I'm going to tell you this guy has to have his numbers get better from last year. They weren't all that spectacular. But I'm talking about Kenny Pickett for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brant. Right now, he's going off the board as the 12th pick in the 13th round. Might as well be a 14th round draft pick or the 22nd overall quarterback. So barely getting drafted as a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues, Brant. This is a guy that I've been pretty passionate about all offseason. I think that offense takes a step forward. I think Najee has a big part to do on that as well, of course. But I do think that Kenny Pickett is the player that he all things point to him being better. The offensive line is improved, right, which will make it easier for him to pass. His pass catchers and Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, that's a pretty good 1-2. There's probably only 5 or 6, 7 teams in the league that have a better 1-2 combination than that. He's got a very solid tight end in Pat Freiermuth, Brant. And in last season, he had 10 games where he had over 100% snap count. So either in 7 other games, either Mitch Trubisky started or they relieved each other in some, form or fashion. But last year in 10 games, he threw 357 passes, 224 completions for 2,217 yards. All right, so that doesn't sound all that flashy, obviously, Brant. But again, I'm kind of a nerd for these things. He completed 62% of his passes last year, which there's nothing to hang your hat on there. And if you statted him out for a 17-game season, that's 606 passing attempts, 380 completions, 3,768 yards passing, which, Brant, that shocks me on a team where Mike Tomlin's the head coach and they're traditionally a run-heavy team. And speaking of run-heavy, he also ran the ball 55 times last year, which I think is what you said for Russ, right?
Yes.
237 yards rushing and another 3 scores to go on the ground. So this is a guy who's not extremely mobile, but he can do it when he needs to. And the passing numbers are there, right? Deontay Johnson, as long as he has a positive regression and touchdowns this year, you're going to see Kenny Pickett's numbers improve. Najee is going to be more involved in the pass catching game. I think Jalen Warren will be involved in the pass catching game, and the wide receivers are no slouch. Brant, from past episodes, I'm very high on Allen Robinson there in the slot this year as well. So I'm really expecting big things out of Kenny Pickett this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That offense is going to have to hang up points in order to compete in that division anyways. And I really do believe that Pickett does take a very big step forward this year. I think we start talking about his name as being a top 10 fantasy or dynasty quarterback in fantasy leagues. Absolutely 100% behind that pick there. So now I'm going to go into the running back position here. And this guy is going in the 8th round in most drafts, and he is very possibly the RB1 in Chicago, and that's Khalil Herbert. This is a guy that I'm going out and I am trying to get everywhere I can. I messed up in one of our drafts, and I took the other 2 running backs thinking this guy had no chance, then got to digging in a little bit more and going, I messed up. I really messed up. So this guy's been running with the ones all off season, all training camp. He looked phenomenal in the first preseason game. In the little bit of time he did see on the field. In the 13 games he played as a backup last year to David Montgomery, he finished as RB 41. I know that doesn't sound great at all. This is in 13 games. He had 129 attempts and 731 yards, and he was averaging over 5.5 yards per carry. Per carry, he averaged over 5.5 yards, and he only added 4 touchdowns. I expect him to instantly be the RB1 there. Mm-hmm. I don't see anybody really threatening that anymore. After all the reports and watching him play and how explosive he's looking. I know he fought through injury. Like I said, he only played 13 games last year. And he's, like I said, he's been running with the number ones. We saw him involved in the pass game in that first week. A lot of screen passes are going to be coming out of Chicago, and I think Herbert's going to be the guy to benefit from this. And this is an 8th-round draft pick, and you could possibly be getting an RB1 on a team. This is no slouch. This is a guy that I am definitely going after in most of my drafts. And the drafts that I have left, I will be leaving those drafts with him.
Yeah. Brant, if you've got your stake made in a Chicago Bears running backfield, you're a brave soul. I'm still not sure I understand or think or know or want to guess who I think it should be. Khalil Herbert. He knows the system better than the other two. He's had plenty of time to sit and wait for his opportunity, but Roschon Johnson's hyper talented. They signed Deontay Foreman for a reason. We'll see, Brant. I trust you on this one. I haven't done any research on that backfield yet, so you'll get no argument out of me on that one. My running back that I'm going to talk about here, Brant, there's no discretion. He's 100% the RB1 in his backfield. This is Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another one, Brant, that I've just been tooting the train horn on all year or all off season. Currently going as the 8th pick in the 6th round, or RB24 off the board. This is a guy, Brant, that you and I were both fairly high on when we sat down and did our projections. Not much has changed with that backfield or that team, so I think these are probably still pretty accurate. We have him projected for 264 attempts, 1,003 yards rushing, 64 receptions, 390 yards, receiving 8 total touchdowns. Sleeper has him for 201 carries, 849 yards, only 36 receptions for 272 yards, and 7 total touchdowns. So we're pretty on par with the course in touchdowns with Sleeper. We just have him a little bit higher inflated in carries and receptions. But here's what's interesting, Brant, and I know it was Tom Brady last year and it's going to be Baker Mayfield this year or Kyle Trask. Rachaad White as a backup for the better part of the first half of the season had 50 receptions last year. So it wouldn't shock me to see him go over 36. We know that the offensive coordinator there, and we know the head coach want to get Rachaad White the ball. Now, what's also interesting, Brant, is last year, this guy only found the end zone 3 times. He had Leonard Fournette in town, who the Buccaneers were all over getting the ball into his hands. And so now Rachaad White comes to the season. I think Rachaad White is absolutely a back that is a league winner by the season's over based on his ADP.
Yeah, there's nothing there. And then I saw something the other day, and I haven't looked down deep into it, but apparently Baker Mayfield dumped off a lot more than we have given him credit for last year. Apparently he was top 5 and actually dump off passes. I've got to dig a little bit deeper into that, but I did see something come across my computer when I was looking up White the other day as I was looking to keep him in my keeper league because I get him really, really late. And I accidentally ran across that. So this is a guy that I absolutely love. I absolutely believe he could be a league winner. And he's a guy, like you said, where's he going in the 7th round almost?
6th, yeah, basically the back half of the 6th round.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a guy that you're getting when the majority of your running backs and your receivers already filled out. This is a guy that you're grabbing to stash on your bench possibly to start the year. But I almost can guarantee, like you said, he's going to be a guy that's going to be in your starting lineup week in and week out because he could be one of the most productive guys in the red zone there outside of Mike Evans catching the fade balls. But I think that White's going to see a lot of carries and a lot of work this year.
You and me both.
All right, so my next one is a guy that we have talked about, wide receiver. We both are pretty high on him. I have him in a few leagues already. I went out and I acquired him in a trade, and that is Elijah Moore of the Cleveland Browns. He's expected to be the starting slot guy. We know how much Deshaun Watson uses the slot. We saw Cooks in the slot with him. We saw Hopkins in the slot with them. And we know that Watson loves his slot guys. This guy, he's going in the late 8th round, early 9th, depending on where you look at his ADP. And like I said, he should be the starting slot receiver. The Browns traded for him. Okay, they traded for him in weeks 4. And now I have to go back an extra year to 2021 because of the whole, quarterback conundrum there with the New York Jets last year. So you got to go back to 2021. In weeks 4 through 7, he was weeks 7 through 13, he was wide receiver 4 in 2021 with his explosive ability and everything else. And like I said, he had a down year last year, but in 2021, he finished as wide receiver 49 in PPR leagues, but he only played in 11 games. Saw 43 targets for 538 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is a guy that when he gets the ball in his hands, he could take it to the house at any moment off a quick, easy slant route. This is a guy that could definitely be a league winner and a great flex start for weeks to come, week in and week out, on an offense that I expect to be throwing the ball a little bit more to keep up with some of the other teams in that division.
Yeah, they're just not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to not pass it a decent amount, Brant. And Amari Cooper's not getting any younger. DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, showed some flashes, but not really enough. I would say that wide receiver 2 spot's wide open there in Cleveland, like you alluded to. And there's the other thing that he's got going for him, Brant, is there's no Kareem Hunt in town, and he's been doing some work out of the backfield as well. So he's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. He's definitely going to be a high flex play. Or a high ceiling flex play each week that you could put in and reap the rewards from. All right, Brant, we're going to take a quick pause on the My Guys. We'll get right back into them in a minute. Brant, had you heard that the Fantasy Holics had partnered with Underdog?
I have heard that. And I believe if you use the code Holics, they'll double your entry or double your first deposit.
Up to $100. Mm-hmm. All right, Brant, here we go. So, Brant, if for those of people that have been listening at home, we've been sharing some of our favorite season-long plays up until this week. And I think we've put out some really good ones that if people tail, they'll be very happy with you and I come the end of the season, or they want to slap us as we slap ourselves. There'll be no in between. But you and I have made a decision that we are going to make the play of the week a staple of our Sunday morning live start sits, along with the menu of the week. We always get on there. We talk about the good eats that we're going to have when we watch football because, 1, you got to have good food when you're watching football, and 2, I'm fat, so I don't move from the couch, so I have to have good nutrients to sit and put out all that energy of checking my lineups and flipping between the pregame shows and now that I've purchased Sunday Ticket, my thumb's going to get a workout bouncing back and forth to games. So it's going to be a good season, Brant. And so we're done putting out season-long plays. You guys are going to have to tune in Sunday morning, week 1, to get our first plays of the week.
Absolutely. We're excited to get in on the plays of the weeks. If you guys get on there right now, you guys can check out week 1 is already a very few select players are on there for week 1. You're definitely go and check. We will be getting ours ready to get out for week 1 on our Sunday morning lives.
And again, that promo code is Holics. They will double your first deposit up to $100. So again, make your first deposit, use the promo code Holics, and play for the entire season. And tail your plays with Brant and I. We'll see where we're at the end of the year. All right, Brant, let's get back into these wide receiver, the My Guys. I'm going to come at you with my wide receiver, my guy. And Brant, this is one that I feel very passionate about. That I've been defending this player tooth and nail. It makes me want to go out and try to find like an autograph rookie card of his to put on my mantle, make a shrine to him, because I have been through thick and thin with this player this offseason. But that's wide receiver Adam Thielen of the Carolina Panthers, Brant. He's coming in as the 6th player taken in the 11th round, wide receiver 57 off the board, which is completely disrespectful. This guy finished as the number 29 wide receiver in fantasy last season, where he was the number 2 behind Justin Jefferson. This year, he steps out of the enormous shadow of Justin Jefferson. He gets a chance to be the one in Carolina. He's competing with rookie Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark, who's very hot and cold. Thielen is kind of Mr. Consistency in his career. So it'll be very interesting to see if he gets to that wide receiver one, you know, mantle in the Carolina Panthers offense and he becomes Bryce Young's go-to target. I think his numbers could be very good. Again, another guy that I think if you're getting him in the 11th round and he puts up even wide receiver 25 on the season numbers, this is an absolute steal of the draft. And Brant, we talk about this quite frequently. Young quarterbacks, they want to get the ball out of their hand quick. They want to get it out of their hand to trusty guys who are very quick and open field, running backs out of the backfield, tight ends who are putting their big bodies in front of defenders, close to the line of scrimmage. And then you got guys like Adam Thielen, whose career average depth of target is like 7.2. That bodes very well for becoming very good friends with the number one overall draft pick in Carolina there in Bryce Young, Grant. So I'm all over Adam Thielen this year. I know you've kind of slowly started to shake and trend towards DJ Chark as the one in town, but I'm definitely got my flag planted in the Adam Thielen re-breakout this year, if you will, since he's no longer in Justin Jefferson's shadows.
Yep. Adam Thielen's a guy that is a lot like Tyler Lockett. He always seems to put up the numbers. He's always very consistent and always gets disrespected in drafts. He's a guy that definitely I could see taking over that one. Yes, I have started to fade into seeing DJ Chark as possibly the one. That's a wide open wide receiving core. And that really could go to anybody. So if it's going to go to a guy, Adam Thielen, I believe, would have the leg up with that because he is a hardworking guy. We've heard all about him working. He's an undrafted free agent coming out his rookie year. He's always willing to put in the work. So I definitely think he is the guy that does have the leg up in order to get that one spot. Now, going into my tight end is another wide open wide receiving core. This guy saw in a preseason game, saw the first 3 targets come his way. He had 4 total targets in the first preseason game. He played 1 drive. He had 3 catches for 30 yards. That's Darren Waller, a guy that you can get in the 10th or going as the 10th tight end off the board in the 9th round. So if we punt on that tight end position, you're already looking, where can I get somebody? Well, you fill out your starting lineup, Darren Waller sitting there staring at you in the face. This is a guy that's going to be a focal point of that offense. Like I said, the first 3 passes out of Daniel Jones' hands this past week all went to Darren Waller. All in the 1 drive. He saw 3 catches, 30 yards. We've seen it in the past that he can be a top 5 tight end. The last 2 years, he has struggled with hamstring injuries. He struggled there in the Raiders uniform. We saw what the Giants did with Daniel Bellinger, or not yet. With that it was Daniel Bellinger was at the tight end last year that came out of nowhere. And you saw what he could do out there. And now you're getting a guy like Darren Waller who can be moved all over the line, used in the slot, used out wide, used in close. He's a guy that's going to be on the field for the majority of the game, and he's coming out late. It's a wide open receiving core, and this guy right now, I believe, has the leg up to be the number 1 pass catcher outside of Saquon Barkley in that offense. Yes, there are some young guys coming on. Tune into our Fantasy Holics podcast. You may hear about one of those guys coming on in that offense. But yeah, Darren Waller's a guy that I expect to thrive in this new offense. And as long as he stays healthy, he'll be a great guy to add late in your drafts.
Yeah, Brant, and I will give you props here. You've been more on Darren Waller than a lot of people I know this offseason, myself included. I should be there just because of how wide open that wide receiver room is. A guy like Darren Waller should absolutely feast on that offense, and he probably will. It's just not a sexy play for me, so I just can't get on board with it. But you're 100% right, Brant. You're my guy is a guy that if you punt on the position to get value elsewhere, you can fall comfortably with this guy in your lap. My guy is the same way. He's just a little less proven, maybe, than Darren Waller. I've got Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills, the rookie tight end out of Utah State, coming in here. He's going as the 6th player in the 13th round, or tight end 16. So as you can see, Brant, you got wide receiver 57 and Thielen going in the early 6th or 11th round, 2 rounds later, you can get the tight end 16. That shows the disparity at the position. Folks just aren't that into it. Now, you may be asking, Bo, why a rookie tight end? They take forever to come on. And you're right. I don't expect him to be Kyle Pitts this year and do what Kyle Pitts did his rookie season. However, I do think Dalton Kincaid has one thing going for him that Kyle Pitts did not. One, he's got Josh Allen, who's arguably in his prime right now, whereas Kyle Pitts, I love you, Matt Ryan, but he was on the tail end of his career. No shade to Matt, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That is a flag I will die on, Brant. We don't need to go there today because we will run out of internet film space if I go on a Matt Ryan tangent. But he's got Josh Allen in his prime, and the number 2 pass catching role in this offense is completely busted wide open. Could it be Gabe Davis? Yeah, some weeks it probably will be. Could it be Isaiah McKenzie? No, he's not in town anymore. Could it be Dalton Kincaid? Yes, it very well could, Brant. We all know that Stephon Diggs is going to be the number 1. It's not happening there this year. And just like you brought up Darren Waller, I'm going to bring up Dalton Kincaid's first action because it's really all we have to go off of. But Dalton Kincaid in his first preseason action this week, he didn't play in the first week of preseason. He had 4 targets. He reeled in 3 of those for 45 yards. So this is a guy that, again, if he's getting hyper targeted like that, let's say 5 or 6 targets is where he's at. If he catches 4 or 5 passes for 50, 60 yards, you're comfortable with that out of the tight end position. Again, this late in drafts, you're not expecting to hit a home run. You're not trying to get a Travis Kelce in the 13th round. But if I'm getting a guy who can get me 10 to 15 points a week, I'm pretty comfortable with that, Brant, after punting on the position, if you will, and waiting till this late in the draft to grab a guy to fill out my starting lineup.
Absolutely. I went over that with my hot takes of the year. I believe Kincaid's going to have an amazing year. I mean, that wide receiver room outside of Diggs is wide open. And I think Kincaid is one of the most talented guys in this draft that came out in the pass catching area. So I expect him to have a big year, and I do expect him to come on pretty strong as a rookie.
Absolutely, Brent. So that pretty well concludes our My Guys episode. A little bit shorter episode this week because we know you guys are crunching out your stuff for your drafts. And what better way to get ready for drafts than to play an ADP game last week, and then this week kind of go over some guys that we love at their draft spots and as a whole. So thanks for tuning in this week. We'll be back at you again next week. We're almost there, guys. We got one more week of preseason. We're almost to the tail end of August, and then it's football season. It's going to be hot and heavy for quite a few weeks.
Absolutely, guys. Don't forget, tune in Sunday mornings. Watch our lives, start sit show. We'll get you some picks of the day for your underdog. Use the code HOLIX to double your deposit. And we're going to be with you guys all season, helping you out. Don't hesitate to reach out to us reach out to us and the rest of the Fantasy Holics on there on Facebook. We'll be more than happy to help with your start sits, your draft questions. If you're going into a draft and you need a little help, don't hesitate to reach out. We got the Fantasy Holics website up. We got the Fantasy Holics new Facebook page. Make sure you guys get out there and like it. We got the Fatboyz Dynasty Facebook page as well. Get over there. We'll do our best to get back at you too. But yeah, we definitely are ready for football season and ready to get moving.
Yeah, Brent, and also make sure you come to YouTube and you like the YouTube channel and subscribe. Make sure you like the Facebook page, as Brandon alluded to, for the Fantasy Holics, and then make sure you're jumping over and liking the Instagram and TikTok pages as well. We're putting out shorts every week where you can hear little snippets from our podcast, as well as we will go live on all of those. And if you don't have notifications on, you won't know we're live and you won't be able to get your start sit advice here. So make sure you're going and liking us on all those platforms.
Absolutely. Definitely. We look forward to hearing from you guys. And as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.